Critical thinking. Section 1.2. Logic and informal fallacies. Does the argument hold water? Logic is a study of methods and principles used to distinguish good, correct, from bad, incorrect reasoning. A logical argument consists of premises, hypothesis, and conclusion. The premises are assumptions that were accepted as a starting point. The argument is valid if the premises justify the conclusion. For example, identify the premises and the conclusion of the following argument. Is this argument valid? Smoking increases the risk of heart disease. My grandfather is a smoker. Therefore, my grandfather is a smoker. The premises are smoking increases the risk of heart disease, and 2, my grandfather is a smoker. The conclusion is my grandfather is a smoker, and this is a valid conclusion. Therefore, this is a valid argument. The fallacy refers to an argument that may on the surface seem to be correct, but is in fact incorrect. An informal fallacy is a fallacy that arises from the content of the argument, not its form or structure. The argument is incorrect because of what is said, not how it is said. A formal fallacy arises in the form of structure of an argument. The fallacy is independent of the content of the argument. Fallacies of relevance. The premises are logically irrelevant and hence incapable of establishing the truth or their conclusions. Appeal to ignorance is an example of a fallacy of relevance. First, a certain statement is unproven, and second, therefore, the conclusion, the statement must be false. Example. For over 75 years, people have tried and failed to show that aliens have not visited Earth. So we must finally accept the fact that at least some of the UFO reports are based on actual alien visits. So we can think about this several ways. It hasn't been proved that aliens visited Earth, but it also hasn't been proved that aliens have not visited Earth. And so the second possibility here, that it hasn't been proved that aliens have not visited the Earth, really what they want us to believe here is that this right here means that because it hasn't been proven, it must be false. And therefore, somehow we have to accept the fact that the UFO sightings must be true. Dismissal based on a personal attack. A person presents an argument or point of view. The character of that person is brought into question. Based on the character attack, it's concluded that the argument or point of view is incorrect. Example. My political opponent is against government-funded health care, and she also has a reputation for being heartless. She refused to seek medical treatment for her own father when he was ill. So the government-funded healthcare is a good idea. False authority. A person makes a claim based on his or her authority. The claim is outside the scope of that person's authority. The truth of the argument is concluded based on the authority of the claimant. Example. Over the past few years, I have starred in a number of the most popular movies in America. So I can assure you that Johnson & Johnson's new anti-nausea drug is medically safe and effective. Strawman. A position or point of view is presented. The case for dismissing a distorted or different position or point of view, the strawman, is offered. The original position is dismissed on the basis of the reputation of a strawman position. Example. A group of my fellow senators is proposing a cut in military expenditures. I cannot support such a cut because leaving our country defenseless in these troubled times is just not acceptable to me. Here the strawman is leaving our country defenseless is not acceptable. Appeal to common practice. The claim is offered that a position is popular. The validity of the claim is based on its popularity. It's okay to cheat on your income taxes because everybody does it. Example. Identify the fallacies of relevance. I've scoured the library for information on witchcraft. I cannot find a single source that proves that anyone accused of witchcraft was actually capable of anything magical. This shows that there is no such thing as a real witch. Here the premise is that I cannot find a single source that proves that anyone is actually capable of doing anything magical. Right? So there's no proof that someone can be a real witch. Right? This is a lack of proof to draw the conclusion. Right? So we're relying on the lack of proof to draw a conclusion. That's appeal to ignorance. The popular actress Jane Fonda condemned America's involvement in the Vietnam War. So we know that conflict was a civil war in which America should never have been involved. This is an example of false authority. Just because Jane Fonda is a celebrity doesn't mean that she knows anything about politics. Fallacies of presumption. False or misleading assumptions are either tacitly or explicitly assumed, and these assumptions are the basis of the conclusion. False dilemma. An incomplete or inaccurate list of consequences of not accepting an argument is presented. A conclusion is drawn based on the best or least bad of these consequences. You'd better buy this car or your wife will have to walk to work and your kids will have to walk to school. I know you don't want to inconvenience your family, so let's start the paperwork on the automobile purchase. Here you have an incomplete list of consequences. If you don't buy this specific car, these things could happen to your family. And instead of listing all of the things, which is, taking a bus, the family taking a bus, the family buying another car, the family may be getting a ride from the neighbors. The only list of consequences includes the family walking, right? These are the only things that are included. False cause. Two events occur together, or one follows the other. The fact that the events are related is used to conclude that one causes the other. Example. Studies have shown that many people on high carbohydrate diet lose weight. Therefore, a high carbohydrate diet leads to weight loss. Right? Just because people are losing weight on carbohydrate diet doesn't mean that the diet causes the weight loss. Right? So these things occur together. Right? These events are correlated. It doesn't mean that high carbohydrate diet causes the weight loss. Circular reasoning or begging the question. A position or argument is offered. The position or argument is concluded to be true based on a restatement of a position. Example. Giving undocumented immigrants a pathway to citizenship would be a mistake because it's just a flat wrong thing to do. Right, so you could restate this as giving undocumented immigrants a pathway to citizenship would be a mistake because giving undocumented immigrants a pathway to citizenship would be a mistake. Hasty generalization. A statement is true in several cases that may be atypical. The conclusion that is generally true or always true is drawn based on a few examples. For example, I know the quarterback, the tight end, the center on our football team, and all three are excellent students. The athletes at our university do not shrink their scholarly duties. Here, the premise is that I know a quarterback, tight end, and a center who are good students. What about other athletes at the school? Right, so these cases may be atypical. Some common informal fallacies: appeal to ignorance, dismissal based on personal attack, false authority, strawman, appeal to common practice. false dilemma, false cause, circular reasoning, and hasty generalization. Example. Classify the following fallacies. He says we should vote in favor of lowering the sales tax, but he has a criminal record. So I think decreasing the sales tax is a bad idea. This is a personal attack. The premise is a personal attack. This argument has to be dismissed. My dad is a professor of physics, and he says Dobermans make better watchdogs than collies. Here, the fact that that my father is a professor of physics doesn't really say anything about docility of Dobermans or collies. Therefore, this is an example of a false authority. A deductive argument draws a conclusion from premises based on logic. For example, premise: all men are mortal, and Socrates is a man. Deductive conclusion: therefore Socrates is mortal. Because Socrates is a man, Socrates must be mortal. An inductive argument draws a conclusion from specific examples. The premises provide only partial evidence for the conclusion. Example: Socrates is mortal, Plato is mortal, Aristotle is mortal, Archimedes is mortal. Therefore, all men are mortal. Example: a certain organism reproduces by cell division. The following table shows the number of cells observed to be present over the first few hours. As you can see, every hour the cells double. Describe the pattern shown by the table and suggest a general rule for finding the number of cells in terms of a number of hours elapsed. This is an example from section 3.2 in the textbook. It's something we already talked about. Looking closely at the table, we see a pattern, right? The number of cells doubles every hour. Therefore, we can find the number of cells by raising 2 to a power of hours.